So I just wanted to make sure, as you out there are thinking about what you're doing to be successful, show your motivation, show your passion. Don't be fake. It isn't about being fake.
Yeah.
But put your best foot forward with positive aspects of life and minimize the negative.
Yeah.
I'm Mark Cook, president of Windfall Partners. We get leaders unstuck and thriving with their teams after turnarounds as chief executive. The largest ever studies of award-winning leaders, a New York Times bestseller, and 5-star keynotes. I've coached 4,000 client wins at top brands. My Bold Encounters is an advanced system for leading. First, powerful steps on a path forward. Second, problem-solving skills that beat obstacles fast. Now, lead with Bold Encounters today.
So tell me about how you attacked that.
Well, I knew that the way that we were going to take this from 30 to, I quite frankly never dreamed we'd get to 300, but
10x.
Yeah, but get it up to be really competitive with at least the smaller of the big four, was going to be, we had to have a network. We had to have our people know how to build and sustain and grow networks. As you said at the very beginning of this comment, you said, people, you got to find a way to go out and tell people that you're good at what you do and that you're credible. And it's hard to tell somebody that.
Or get the audience to tell them that, because they're not looking to hear that.
Yeah. But the best answer, and everybody knows this, is somebody else tells them that, right? So if somebody credible comes up to you, Mark, and says, hey, Kent Bowman's a good guy. He can deliver, I've seen it. Or he'll never let you down. I guarantee you. I've watched him for X long, right? He won't let you down. All of a sudden, I could say that 30 times, Mark, I'm not gonna let you down, I'm not gonna let you down. You are still gonna have doubts. But if someone you trust says that, third party, now you're going, okay, I think I feel pretty good about this, right? So we knew that for us to go from 30 to whatever, we had to have a network of people that knew we were good and were telling people about that. So we began to teach our people the building blocks behind how do you build that network of people. And it might be different for some that are not in a profession, whether it's medicine or accounting or law. It might be a little different, but it's not too much different. And here's what I kind of told our people, is I said, look, you're an accountant, let's say. You could have been a consultant, we had those too, but you're an accountant. You need to find an attorney. You need to find a real estate broker. You need to find a insurance type guy.
Benefits, property casual.
Yep. You need to find a, who am I missing here? A private equity guy or gal. You need to find a banker.
Yeah.
And there's about 6 or 7 of these. And they can't just be a banker. They have to be someone that you trust.
Yeah.
Okay, that delivers. Now, you get those 5 or 6 or 7 of you together, and you make a pact that you are this network, middle of this network piece, and that you are never going to let each other down. That if you went out to do a particular job that one of them referred you to, and it didn't go well, at the bare minimum, you're going to go make sure that person wasn't charged a nickel for it, okay? Because you are never going to disappoint or never going to create an issue for the person that referred you. You're going to hold them. They have to be pure. They have to be well taken care of. And so the bottom line was, find this network, and then you meet monthly, and you have to come prepared with 3 or 4 clients of yours that you're ready to introduce to them if they need their service. Now, how do you build that network? Well, first is you got to forget that you want them to do something for you. That's the worst thing. What you do is you do something for them. That's all you do. There's no strings attached. It's unconditional. So you seek out an attorney that you think is the best in town or one of the best. And you find a way to bring him aboard or her aboard. And what I mean by that is I had 5 steps that I encouraged our guys to follow. The first is you make connections for them. You never ask them to make connections for you. So maybe you have a client that is a trucking company. You'd go to that attorney, you know that if they do trucking, you say, I'd like to take you out and introduce you to Bob at the X trucking company. I'm going to go to lunch with you. I want you to be there. I just want to tell Bob how good you are. Because I know Bob maybe isn't totally sold on his legal counsel, right? And I want you to get to know him. So first thing you do is you make connections for that person you want in your network. The second thing you do is you find and provide that person with unique and valuable information. It can be as little as if we're talking to an attorney again, that you've seen a case that recently was adjudicated and you send him an article about it. He might already know about it, but he's going, wow, he's keeping me informed about things. That's pretty cool. Or you find an article on something related to the law profession that you found fascinating. You send it to him with a few comments about it. Get him thinking so that he knows or she knows that you care about them and you're providing them with information that makes them better, okay? The third thing we would tell our people is you've got to build a relationship with them. So you find something, especially when we're younger, we don't have a lot of money. We can't go out and take them to, LA to watch a baseball game or something. All we do is we find a way to interact with them. It could be a lunch. That sounds boring, but it could be okay. And then when you go to that lunch, you're prepared. You learn a few things about them, and then you follow up with things. Maybe they're a fly fisherman, and you find out that they love to fish the Provo. So then you go out and you find 3 or 4 of the best flies that usually work at certain times on the Provo, and you buy them, and you mail it to them and say, hey, loved our conversation over lunch today. Fascinating that you're a fly fisherman. Would you try these out and tell me if they're any good, right? Something as simple as that begins to build this relationship. Then the fourth thing you want to do is you want to make sure that you find ways that you can tell others in your networking group about them. And you compliment them and you find ways to make sure everyone understands why they are so good at what they do, right? And then the final one is demonstrate a passion of yours for them to be successful. And the way I would do that sometimes is from a lunch, again, I would learn something about them and I would figure out what they felt was the most important things for them to be successful. And let's say one of them was, back to the example of an attorney, I just need to be in front of more tech groups because that's my expertise is technology. And I just don't know that I'm getting in front of all the ones I need to. Then I would find a way to go to the leaders of tech groups or even just people in the tech groups, the organizations, and I would say, could we get this guy there? I'll even pay for him to come for this particular session if there was a cost, but can we allow him to come in? And that would demonstrate that I had a passion for him or her to be successful. If I did those 5 things, then
over and over.
Yeah. You can't just do it once. And I never ask for anything in return. I never ask, hey, can you introduce me to X or Y?
Just a sacrifice.
It's a sacrifice. Whatever, I just let them know that I have enough interest in them. I want them to be successful. And I'm showing them in all these different ways. The magic happens. And they will, all of a sudden, I'll get a call. Kent, hey, let's go to the Jazz game this week. And I've got a guy I'm going to bring too. I'm not sure he needs, accounting services or audits, but I kind of think he does. Would that be okay? You want to come? Happy to be there, right? And it didn't take any additional effort. It just worked. So we spent time helping each of our people at Tanner learn how to do that. And some of these guys are out of school for 6 months, right? They don't have any experience, but they would find guys roughly their age or their level in these different professions and begin to build this early.
Did you check on it? Did you expect it? Did you not demand, but in a gentle way, demand performance with it?
Yeah, we never used the word demand.
Yeah, I wouldn't either, but I just did.
But we would have gatherings, right? And the way we would do it is we would pick some examples that I would learn about behind the scenes. And I'd say, hey, just want you all to know that, Mary has 3 people now that she's networking with. And I happen to know that the way she got them into this group was A, B, and C. It's miraculous. And Mary, would you mind just standing up and taking a minute and tell us, was it hard? Was it fun? Describe it for us, right?
Yeah.
And then everybody would go, oh, hey, if Mary can do that, and she's kind of got a twinkle in her eye now, she's liking it, I think I better try harder and give this another shot, right?
Yeah.
It works.
So one of the things that's interesting about that last point you just made is that when I was working with the Tanner Institute and discovered this really curious finding where they had found that if a leader sets an expectation in his mind or her mind and then it communicates them clearly to someone or some people and then tracks, obviously requires accountability or reporting back positive or negative results. And then another leader, generally, over the representative sample, another leader is doing what you said, recognizing the specific steps that are expected and success in each specific step. So one is a projection. This is what you should do, A, B, and C. Please do it, and we'll check on it. The other one is Sally, I think you said, Sally did A, B, and C, and this is how it turned out. And that's well. The results are tremendously better for understanding and application, for just publicly recognizing people that do the steps and the expectations, rather than saying, here they are, go do them. It's really fascinating.
Very powerful.
All right, so I'm gonna create an extended version of this interview, and I want to ask you about your other, at least one of many other ways that you very carefully inform people that you could help them. That's the way to say selling. So, it's interesting. Most people that are average employees would never dream of selling, would never dream of trying to get an audience with someone that they don't know or do know and give them an opportunity to hear a potential. They just don't. It's really horrifying to them to think of doing that. And yet, just quickly, I'd love to hear you, someone who's run businesses, works with these people that study so much accounting that they're not thinking about building relationships. What is your advice to the average employee, the mid-level leader that's in an operational role, or even a CEO that's never been in sales? What is your advice about being involved with this top set of lines in the income statement that accountants don't usually think about?
Yeah. It's a great question. And sometimes there's a little bit of a nuance because some people are just afraid. They're introverts, right? They just have this horror thought when it's, I've got to go out and have this guy make a positive answer about buying a service or a product, right?
Yeah.
And what my advice is this. All of us can naturally sell something. It's just a matter of doing it in a way that you're comfortable with. Now, some people say, I'm not comfortable with anything. No, that's not true. Because if you were able to simply do something like, all right, this individual over here is a prospective client. They want my service. They don't want it yet, but they need my service or my product. Simply by going over, again, like we talked before, and having a conversation as boring as, tell me about, I haven't had a chance to really get to know you, and I would be very interested to know a little bit about you. Where did you go to school? What's your family like? Do you have any specific interests, right? And you don't ask them quite that directly, but you do it indirectly. And you volunteer things about yourself that allow that person to know you're vulnerable. Most people don't want people to know they're vulnerable, but you want them to know you're vulnerable. And the reason is that when they think that you're vulnerable in some way or another, their heart softens, if I can use that term. Yeah. And they go, I can tell this person's a little nervous, right? They're vulnerable, they're not used to doing this. And they want to help you. Yeah. It's amazing, they want to help you. So you just do your best to kick up a conversation about anything or everything, and then let them know, even be honest and say, I don't get a chance to talk to people very often in what I do. I'm usually, behind the screen working on some tax return, right? But it's really an opportunity for me to just say hi to you and have lunch with you. Thank you, and I hope you understand I'm a little uneasy here. Saying something like that is great. Yeah. And that person will typically reach out and help you. And then the key is you in your mind have set out 3 or 4 messages you want to get across. If you plan for an outcome, you will usually get it. If you spend $100 to go to some banquet, to meet people, and the first time you think about what you're going to say is when you walk through the door,
you wasted your $100.
Ain't going to happen, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So in advance, you say, okay, what's a win for me? Yeah. If I can get 2 people, if I can just give 2 people my card, that's a win. Okay, that's a pretty low win, but that's okay. And so you say, I'm going to hand them my card or transfer my information via phone to 3 people before I leave this today. That's a goal. The second goal is I'm going to make sure I have found 2 people that can be prospective clients. And I'm going to have at least one of them, I'm going to have a calendar date to have lunch with them. And so anybody can do this, and you show your vulnerability, you ask them a bare minimum, you have a couple things you want to accomplish, and then it builds. And once you have just a little bit of success, it rolls like a snowball. Guaranteed.
It's terrific. Okay, one other question about that topic. Before this is a really short answer probably, but what effect does getting involved in trying to bring a prospect or someone who might want what your company does, what effect does that have on an average operational or administrative employee? If they are courageous enough to do the unthinkable and start doing that type of activity and direct them and partner with those that are professionals at presenting the opportunity and discovering the needs, what happens to their work life if they are brave enough to cross that chasm into?
It turns into complete excitement. It sounds funny to go that far, but it does. I've had people that would never have thought to do that. They got this little taste of it, and now they're back the next day and they're kind of saying, hey, if there's another chance to meet with somebody, I'd love to do it, right? Can I do that? Or, I have another idea. I should have said this. I said this, but I should have said this. I just hope I get another chance, right? And they're just kind of tingling. They're kind of on fire. And when you get that happening through everybody in your organization, it's magic. And they're all looking at a way to make it better. And they now have ownership. Back to what I said earlier. Yeah. They now believe they have ownership in the business because they have done something, as small as it might have been, to bring in that next wave of revenue. And they're all about it.
Yeah.
It's good stuff.
And sometimes they don't realize they just grabbed ownership of their own career because there's very few $20 an hour successful business developers or salespeople in the world that is a big, valuable employee that is willing to do that. So whether they could get up on their own and make 10 calls before 10 and pull it off for themselves and have their own company, or they can get valued by that company tremendously. They can triple their salary if they start bringing revenue in.
It's huge.
It's huge.
Yeah. I wanted to give you one quick example. I had a little bit of an interesting, right before I went into college, I was in the country of Iran for 2 years. I was there as a missionary. And as I was there, I would see a lot of expatriates that were there. This was back at the time of the Shah.
Yeah, right before the
revolution.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And so we would see Filipinos, we would see Koreans, we would see Americans, British. These people were in country in Iran to work for a company. Maybe it was Bell Helicopter, helping them get their helicopter fleet going. Maybe it was some from Utah State University that were helping them enhance the sheep and the cows and that. Maybe it was someone that was working in the nuclear industry because they were building nuclear plants. And so I would come across these people often when they first arrived into the country.
Yeah.
And I could tell literally within 2 or 3 sentences of talking with them if they were going to survive or not.
Wow.
If I heard them say, wow, this is going to be exciting, I'm going to learn about some ancient history here. I'm going to taste some really unique food. I'm going to have the opportunity to travel to some cities where there's biblical stories that happened in that city, right? Or I'm going to be able to understand a whole new culture. And I'm excited about it. Those people were going to thrive, and they did. And then I would see people that came in and they would say, oh my word, I'm not going to have a swimming pool like I used to. I'm not going to have, a car. I have to be driven around. It's so hot here. It's so muggy. Look at the dress of the people around here. I don't fit in. This is bad. They were usually gone within 3 months. Their companies would have to transfer them back out. And the reason I bring this up is people want to be around people that are positive. There's a great book, I'm going to plug it, it's not my book, but it's called The Noticer, Noticer, by a guy named Andy Andrews. And he talks about this idea that if you want to be successful, the way you get success is you have opportunities, and you get those opportunities from people. And so the more people you have around you, the more opportunities, the more success. And so the way you get more people around you in your sphere of influence is you're positive, you're motivated, you're passionate, you're helping them. If you're negative, if all you're, I hate my job, I hate my company, I hate my country, whatever it is, people will begin to back away from you. And then your opportunities will go down and your chance for success will go down. So I just wanted to make sure, as you out there are thinking about what you're doing to be successful, show your motivation, show your passion. Don't be fake. It isn't about being fake.
Yeah.
But put your best foot forward with positive aspects of life and minimize the negative.
Yeah.
That which we focus on increases. If we focus on all of our ailments and pains and negativities, we'll find a whole lot more of them. If we focus on what we're blessed with, the good things in our life, it may not be that great, but they're good. We'll all of a sudden open up and see there's more good things out there, and more. And we're more and more positive, or we're more and more negative. And that's another key to building that network is you want to have an aura about you of positivity, not negativity.
Yeah, that's a great point. It ties a couple of things you said together that are really inspiring. One is that, one of my favorite things that I heard once was that every single situation we're in, every moment, there's so much more data that is happening and coming into our senses than we can manage. And we are just able to even comprehend a tiny bit. So that focus you talked about, you can focus on a little positive there, a little positive there, a little positive there, or that little negative or that little negative, and you're not even close to exhausting the amount of things that are involved in any circumstance that you ever find yourself in. And so you really have to try to force yourself to pick those bits, so to speak, that are positive and learning and such. The other thing it reminds me is not only do positive people tend to have a better result as a leader, but so it's interesting what you described in Iran. It sounds like for most people an undiscovered country, and you can focus on the positive and learning, or you can focus on the negative and you don't learn anything really. You just have regret and pain. It makes me think of a couple of things you said, like the willingness to attack and accept and raise your hand early when something's needed, and not feel like it's putting you out, but it's a chance to perform and to get all the positive out of it. It also reminds me what we're talking about. You can be doing your normal job. You have your 15 bullet items on your job description, and you can sit at your desk for the next 5 years on average and do those things and get very small raises and pats on the back. Or you can venture in this very foreign country. It's almost like Iran to some people in the workplace. But in the world of business development and sales, and where we entice brand new conversations and ultimately business, that's very scary for people. But if you're brave enough to just look at the positive aspects of what could happen, imagine that no one will get mad at you. Imagine that it'll just all work out and you'll learn. This is really a great point. I wanted to ask you one more business development related question. Once you shared with me something that I've used a few times, and it's been really helpful. Most people that do get brave and go to that side in a professional services or even a normal company, and they could run into a friend or a colleague that they know might have connections. And it's typical to say, well, I'll give you a 10% finder's fee or something small, give you some movie tickets. It hardly is enough to ever get me interested in doing. And you had a radically different idea about that. Would you share that process and that thought with us?
Sure, I'll try to do that. My view, and what I've seen that proves successful, is you want to be active. So you want to go to that person that you think could make a referral for you. And you don't want to tiptoe around and maybe could you do this, because 95 out of 100 times they won't. It's not going to be high enough on the priority list to step up and go out and put themselves out to refer you. So you want to be direct with them. It's important to be direct. And so you'll say, look, Bob, you know me pretty well now. You've seen my work. You've seen what we do. Be candid with me. If the opportunity were there, would you be willing to say, yeah, use this individual. He's great at what he does. I highly recommend him. I would suggest that there's nobody out there better than this guy to do it. From the people I know that work in this arena, top notch. Is that something you would be willing to say, or is that not the case? And you're not going to hurt my feelings here. What do you really think? So you find a way, in your own way, to get them to honestly tell you, yes, I am a big time supporter, or I'm lukewarm, or it'll never happen, right? If they get to that point where you can get a feeling that they're a big time supporter, they would be, in the right circumstance, they would do that. Then what you've got to do is take the next step. And that is, you've got to give them an incentive to do it. Because again, most of us, we come home from work, we've spent our 8 or 10 hours doing what we needed to do. Now we got kids or wives or something happening that's going to take our time, or just we want to go and rest, right? So what is it that's going to cause that individual to say, you know what, I've got to make time today to make sure that they know, Mark is the best at what he does and that they ought to use him. Mm-hmm. It's not typically going to be, tickets to the Jazz that's going to do that or something along those lines. It's probably going to need to be bigger. Now, you'll ferret that out in your own mind, but think about it. If this particular work that you're asking him to refer you to, mm-hmm. let's say that was going to generate $50,000 of net profit for you. Well, if you don't have his recommendation, you get 0, right?
Yes.
So in my mind, I might do something that could cost me as much as $25,000, or that sounds like a big number. But if I knew that would catch his interest, he'd be willing to go out on the line and make sure that people knew I was the best at what I did and that they ought to consider me or use me, then that's a reasonable price to pay. And that could be something like, maybe it's a conversation like this. Hey, Bob, you know me. We've talked about this. You think I'm good at what I do. You've even complimented me that I've made a difference in your life a little bit here and there, and I really appreciate that. Mm-hmm. What if I did this? I really want to expand what I'm doing, and I need you to talk to A, B, and C for me and let them know that I'm the right guy. What if I made this easier for you? You could be a hero with your wife. Why don't I fly you and your wife over to Hawaii for a week, let you have the opportunity to just enjoy life together on me. I would do that in an instant if I could get a referral out of these 3 that we've talked about. Would you do that? Now that sounds pretty aggressive, right?
Yeah.
And you might temper that back a little bit here or there, and you might take a slightly different approach. But the point I'm making is you have to get your name higher on his list of to-dos, because he's got a long one. And if you're down there at number 12, you'll probably be number 11 a year from now and number 10 2 years from now. So you've got to get up to number 1 or 2 quickly. And you want him, again, you always want your client or the person you're trying to influence, you want them to feel like you want them to win, because you do. And this is the way you're going to help him win, is you're going to give him this opportunity to be in paradise for a week with his wife and make their relationship better, and him the hero in that process.
Yeah, it's a really different approach than everyone else is saying, hey, I'll give you 10% finder's fee, or something like that, or some small amount. One of the things that I run into is it's so big that people wonder if it's ethical. Yeah. And maybe there's industries where they don't think it is. I don't know of any where it would be, because I'm not paying or giving anything to the person that I'm trying to help and benefit with my product or service. I'm trying to help the colleague that has nothing to do with our transaction over there, what they're doing is willing to introduce us, say nice things about me, either as a provider, as a professional, or even as an individual. Like, they don't even need to know my work as long as they trust me and my competence generally to do what I say I'm going to do, because I just said I can do it, right? So the thing that really is fascinating to me is what you said about the 50. Like, even if you're going to make $20,000, if the contribution or the gross margin, the net, whatever you want to look at it, the money you're going to get is $6,000 a month, or even $6,000 total, and you have a new chance at a recurring revenue or a repeat customer, or maybe an occasional customer, and you give up even most of that margin, at least you got a new customer. To, the cost of a big business-to-business customer is different than a little consumer purchase.
Exactly.
For example. So.
And what the other point I want to make sure we emphasize is that person that's going to make the referral has to believe in you. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So if he doesn't or she doesn't really know that you're credible, or he or she doesn't know that you're capable, the way they will make that referral, the ultimate customer will see through it. You know what I mean?
They will feel it.
They won't feel it. This referral has to be something that ultimate customer can feel. Yeah. And so that's why you want to test those waters first and say, how do you really feel about me, my company, my services, my ability to deliver? Honestly, tell me. And ask. You may have to ask that 5 or 6 different times, like the Ishikawa fishbone diagram approach to life, right? And but once you're confident that they believe in you, then all you're really saying is, look, I want this to be a priority for you. Yeah. I would appreciate it if it's a priority for you. And that's why I want to offer something that would make a positive impact in your life. Yeah. And you may, there are certain professions where you are prohibited from paying a commission to somebody, right? I mean, auditing is one of those. We can't pay a commission to somebody to refer us. Mm-hmm. But most, that's not the case. And the reason
the vast majority of industries.
The vast majority, it's not the case. And the reason
trying to help each other.
Yeah. So, I'm confident that 99% of the time it's totally appropriate. And the key is you're just wanting to incent that person to move you up the list so that you can do your job, which he knows you do very well. You can do more of it.
So they take it seriously instead of just like, if I get around to it, if I ever have a chance. It's like, wow, maybe not number 1, but maybe 2 or 3 on my list today is to get that done, because I could be going to Hawaii, or I could be going to the opera in the nicest restaurant in the city, or whatever the case may be.
Whatever it is. Yep.
As someone who's tried it a few times, one of the things that happens, and you can address this a little bit, but people will say, oh no, I just, first of all, you've got the positive out of them. So even if it's just 2 or 3 follow-up questions that get a set, it's forced it through their audible faculties, and they're good at it now. Yeah. They just train themselves to say those things, which is an important thing when they go to the other person. The second thing is they like you more, because they've just flushed the positive through their brain. And so they're like, oh no, I'll just do it anyway. And I have to say, I know you would. I'm confident you would. But I need to keep this near the top of your priority list. And so whether you want me to or not, I'm going to do this. Yeah. You're going to Hawaii with your wife. You're going to a show in a great restaurant, or whatever it is.
I love it.
Is there any suggestion that you have for those? Like when they say, oh, I'll do it anyway. Have you done something different than that?
I initially do exactly what you said, Mark. I would say, no, I know you would. You're that kind of a person. Mm-hmm. I know you would. Yeah. But I want you to have the benefit. Remember, there's 2 parts to this. I want you to do it because you believe that I'm going to deliver what I say and do deliver. Yeah. But secondly, I want you to have a benefit from this, right? I mean, I don't expect this to be a sacrifice on your part. I want you to have a benefit, and I want you to be able to be, the hero, if you will, with your spouse or your son or your daughter, that you're going to this incredible restaurant and a movie or a play, or you're going to Hawaii, or you're going to whatever. I want this to be a win-win, and in this way we can do it. And if they continue to say, no, I'm just going to do it, don't worry about it, I appreciate it, you've still had a win, because they've had to tell you 2 or 3 times it is their priority now.
I'm going to do it.
And so if they're good people, if they're ethical people, they will do it.
That's terrific. I hadn't thought of that. If you get them to say they'll do it 3 times, they're probably going to do it. Okay, last couple of things, and I'll let you describe these how you want. I want you to think of a young 20-year-old. Maybe they just something like the Sudanese that you and I have both worked on a little bit in different ways. They just arrive, and all they can think about is today. And what I do is sometimes some pro bono work where I put a 5-year plan in front of their imagination, like I do with CEOs, but don't charge them anything. But you have something to tell those young, brand new professionals. If you had one thing to tell someone who just has a blank slate and is ready to start working their life's work, what would you tell them?
I think the most important thing that, as a characteristic that I see in people for success, is along those lines we talked about, of someone that takes ownership in the project. Someone that makes the effort, someone that shows up and consistently shows up. So as I'm talking to those young 20-year-olds, whether they're a refugee just into the country trying to learn English, or they've been born and raised here and they're trying to get out on their first job having completed college or even before college, the answer is do what it takes to make yourself noticed and appreciated in a positive way. You can make yourself noticed by acting stupid, right, or crazy. Yeah. No. You're going to be there at the side of whoever is responsible for you, and you're going to say, what's next? What do you want me to do next? Do you want me to just take this and run with it? Do you want me to report back to you every 10 minutes so that you're sure I'm doing it the right way? I want to do this the way you would do it. Please help me, right? A person with that attitude, essentially saying, I want to be an owner here someday. I want to do the very best job I can. I want you to be able to say to your superior, I trust this guy. Those are the things you do. And if you do those, I can promise you, you'll be in the 15% that can. Yeah. The other 85%, they won't do that. And you're going to set yourself apart. You'll get the next best opportunity and then the next best opportunity, and it won't be long before you do own the business.
Yeah, I've found that people that do something exceptional 3 times in a row, something big happens to their work life. Yeah. Finally, so you're doing work now in your new career with City Strong. Tell us whatever you want about it and how to find it.
Thank you. City Strong. Some of you might have heard of the organization called My Hometown. My Hometown goes into troubled neighborhoods along the Wasatch Front from Provo to Ogden. And we do things to help those communities pull themselves up by the shoestrings or by the bootstraps. We'll go in, we'll pour new driveways, we'll repair fences, we'll paint their houses, we'll clean up their yards, we'll clean up areas in the neighborhoods that are blighted or forgotten. Those are all great things. What City Strong does is we help support that financially and with people. But in addition, we want to help those communities grow in non-physical ways as well. So many of these communities are suffering from mental health issues. All of us in all communities are to some degree. So an example is we teach a course called Everyday Strong, developed by United Way, But we go in and we help these families know how to deal with their teenagers that are struggling with depression and anxiety, and maybe even, hopefully never, but moving towards a suicidal situation. So we work on mental health. We work on education. We have hundreds of volunteers that go into the elementary schools and help these kids read and get up to speed and get up to their grade levels. And finally, we help with legal immigration. Those people that are here that are going to be great parts of our society, but need work authorizations, etc. We go in and help them get that documentation so they can truly begin their life as the newest Americans. So immigration, education, mental health, and physical improvement of neighborhoods is what City Strong Foundation is all about. And if any of you ever want to be a part of this, contribute monetarily or come volunteer with us, please contact us. Citystrong.org will get you there. And that's cities, plural, CITIES, strong.org. Come look at that website and come join us. Let's make a difference in people's lives in a very, very positive way. Thank you.
Kent Bowman, amazing career, and off to a new one. Thanks.
Thank you for joining us to get leaders unstuck and thriving with their teams. You've heard a little bit about the power of bold encounters and leadership. Watch on, go to full episodes with the iconic expert interviews at markspencercook.com/podcast. And please subscribe. My site takes you directly to YouTube video and podcast versions. Please make comments, share this with your friends. Also, reach out to us to just brainstorm your priorities, challenges, events, or how bold encounters might help. Visit windfallpartners.com. Click the Let's Talk button without obligation and reach out. I look forward to speaking. Thank you for joining us. Now, let's lead with bold encounters today.